Another sprint. We're looking at pick 9 this time. I am going to do something a little weird. I'm going to go Nico, and then hopefully we can land London at the next pick. I really like London this year. Not only do I project him for just an elite level of targets this year, previous data just associating him with other just really elite wide receivers based on his production last year. Going into this year, he has potential for a massive blow up. I think Penix plays really well into London's style, especially as like a go up and get it wide receiver, a massive deep threat for London to play into. I mean, for Penix to play into, that being London, I like a lot. Puka here is massively tempting though. But I'm gonna stick to my guns. I'm getting more and more. I love Puka. Stafford worries me a lot. I can't getting Puka at 18 though is just a smack yourself silly. That I don't know why people wouldn't take Puka here. Regardless, I think London has a lot of potential this year. I honestly think I may even prefer London a little bit to Nico maybe, but maybe a conversation for another day. Either way, both these players also line up very well for Arizona. If we can manage to land either Trey McBride after ADP, it would be roughly 7 spots after ADP given our current draft picks. That would be amazing. If not, we should be very set up well to take James Conner as a running back at our pick 57. Hand up, I also completely forgot that Marv now goes right in this range. So Marv would be another, great pick. It also set us up fairly well. Let's check out the pick. We have to take Kyler. Kyler does not fit super well into our current picks. We either have to take him early or get really lucky getting him late. I don't think we go Kyler. We'll see how the rest of this draft goes. If we get a bunch of massive ADP values, we could consider it. Easy pick for Marv here. We have 2 games set out for him. He plays Houston 15, London and Atlanta 16. And we aren't going to get any Cincinnati for him, but that's fine. I think the Marvin Harrison hate is getting a little crazy for me. I really don't understand it too well, but I think he's still up and coming wide receiver. I think we had our expectations for his rookie year were a little crazy, and I think that's really negatively affecting people's idea for where he should be going, how good he is this year. I think I might be just drafting this guy in every single one of my drafts the rest of the way. Mike Evans is very tempting, especially with the injuries to their room. I want Xavier Worthy. I'm sorry. I know I have a lot more Mike Evans currently than I do Xavier Worthy. The big thing for Worthy to me is I loved him even before Rashee Rice is now looking at like 6 or more games suspended. And in the middle of the season, I already liked Worthy a lot. I think what we saw in the second half of the year with him was very promising. Above all, we saw the Chiefs want to put the ball in his hands in creative ways. That was part of the reason that made not only Tyreek Hill, but also Travis Kelce super valuable. All the unique ways, especially in the red zone, that they got him the ball. I think with Rashee Rice potentially facing an even larger suspension and what you assume to be a second-year jump out of Worthy, I really think the sky's the limit, and he might be a player that I'm just clicking in every draft, regardless of the game stacks, regardless of the team stacks, regardless of how much KC or their opponents I have. In Sprint, BBM, every single format, I think I am nearing all in on Xavier Worthy. We'll see what my exposure ends up being closer, like a week or 2 from now, but I think I'm going to be drafting a lot of Xavier Worthy. Well, I do like Kamara an okay bit. I think given the 2 games we have set up for Arizona, and the consideration that we might take Kyler slightly early, given the game stacking we have, I'm fine to take Connor here. If Connor is able to avoid, any injuries this year, I think he's a massive value. We've seen the volume that he's getting. There has been a lot of coach speak about Trey Benson getting more touches this year. I really don't know how far to read into that. I do think he'll be more involved in the offense than he was last year. That's just point blank. You should expect that. To what degree that massively eats into Connor's workload, I don't really see it. I do think this is one of the last years you're really going to see a ton of value for James Conner, but I think that value is still there. With this next pick, I do think we're better served going running back as opposed to another wide receiver here, given the investment that we've already put into wide receiver. I think Swift is likely a safer bet than Harvey. Harvey is very nice. Granted, we do have the 1 game with him, but I'm going to take Swift. I'm going to play it safe. I think Swift has a more concrete role in his offense than Harvey does right now. Don't read too much into Harvey being listed 5th on the depth chart. That's just Sean Payton being Sean Payton. But I think if this were BBM, you see me clicking Harvey there, given the matchup with Worthy. With only 1 game, I don't want to, overemphasize that I took Worthy off that 1 game. That hyper emphasis is only needed in BBM, not in this sprint format. And I think Swift gives us the better likelihood of actually getting there. I do think, J.K. Dobbins is a serious threat to Harvey's workload, especially considering, when they signed him, they seemingly felt the need to further improve that backfield. And he's an exciting electric back in his own right. I don't really think there's any exciting electric backs behind Swift. in what people are projecting to be at least a slightly improved offense with Ben Johnson. We're going to go Jacoby Myers here, a player I admittedly don't have a ton of. We do get one game lined up with Houston, and I think he's a fairly serviceable, high-volume wide receiver, gives us a little bit of floor considering the higher-end, higher variance players that we've taken so far. Just planning to go Tracy there. I'm more than fine to take Jordan Mason instead. Mason certainly has a ton of upside if you see any sort of Aaron Jones injury, and he's likely going to get a lot of goal line work in this Minnesota offense. You'll notice I did not take Kyler there. I think considering CJ Stroud and Michael Penix Jr.'s ADPs and how well they line up for us, both Stroud at 130 and our pick 129, and then Penix at 140 and our pick 136, I have to take the risk on Kyler maybe being there. I don't think it's worth taking him 10 spots above ADP when I line up so well for our first two picks, Nico and London. And if we do realize, hey, Kyler's not there, then we can work more heavily into these receiving rooms, both in the tight end and some later flyers for both Stroud and Penix. Feel fairly good about that. And we'd likely be taking both of them, and then we still have two Arizona bringbacks for two big games in this lineup should we end up Stroud Penix. As you can all clearly see, we do not end up getting Kyler Murray. I do think I'm going to opt to go for running back depth here over Jaden Higgins, partially because, personally, given his ADP, I don't think Jaden Higgins is like that great of a value right now. We are admittedly getting him past ADP, so that does help us a bit. If we can get him at this next pick, more than amazing. But I do think people are kind of overrating Higgins' target volume potential just by a little bit. He is an unproven rookie. There are a lot of questions about this Houston offense. So I pick 98, I don't love it. I pick 112, I like it a lot more. And we are definitely going to be hunting for Stroud now at our next pick. And Penix is obviously a great option as well. All right, sweet, and we get Stroud. While I do really like Kyle Pitts, I think we are more forced to focus on getting the safety at quarterback with Penix than taking the upside currently at the tight end position and taking Pitts. It's unfortunate, but I really think that's what we have to do. Stroud is no surefire QB1, while I do view him as a very ADP efficient selection at the 130 range. There's a reality that he's just a low-end QB1. That's not bad at all, especially given where we're taking him. But I do think to advance, we're going to need to usually make it up through the mean with Stroud rather than relying on him being a top 5 quarterback this year. And given the players that we have behind Penix here, we really need Penix. Okay, again, might be a little strange, but I think this vastly improves our advance rate. We're going to take Geno here, get a third quarterback, further punt off tight end. I don't think Hunter Henry is exceptionally good for us. Zach Ertz doesn't, line up game stacking wise too great for us. I'm likely going to go, no pun intended, Isaiah likely at this next pick because I think he gives us a lot of that late season ceiling. Once he's back, even during the season, I think he's fairly good. And then we can build out kind of the safer floor options with our follow-up picks. Going to be a 3 quarterback, 3 tight end team given how late we went at both those positions, which is more than fine given the running backs and wide receivers that we've taken earlier. And yeah, while Hunter Henry is probably safer, I think likely gives us a better ceiling. The reality is that Hunter Henry is not going to be individually that much better than some of these later tight end options like Schultz, Otten, or Okonkwo come the end of the season. Yeah, and I think Otten, especially given the injuries that Tampa Bay is seeing now. McMillan used to be one of my favorite picks. Now he is going to be out for a lot of the season with how severe his injury is. I think that's a massive bump for Otten. He can still get very late, and I think he gets a lot of early season target share bump with both Godwin and McMillan out, and you aren't seeing the same ADP jump that you are out of all the excitement with Emeka Egbuka. I had already, stated my case about my concerns about the ADP with Egbuka, and now people get bailed out with a McMillan injury, so I'll have to just eat crow regarding that one. But I certainly think Otten is one of the greater late tight end picks now. Now, I've sung his praises before. This last pick is all about opportunity. Hopefully, Woody Marks can capitalize on the opportunity in Houston right now and be a very good pick for us. And with these final 2 picks, we will go tight end into our final wide receiver. That final wide receiver will likely be Ray-Ray McCloud. I've spoken about how I think he has a fair bit of value that people aren't, realizing, to be quite honest. If we see Penix really improve this offense, I think McCloud's still going to be a fairly important part of it. There is the chance that, Pitts eats into some of his target share by massively improving this year. That has been a bet that I've made a lot. But I still think McCloud will be on the field for a fair number of wide receiver sets, and he'll give us the occasional value, whether that be in a TD or a random, hyper-focused week target-wise. I still think McCloud's a pretty good pick, especially when we play into Atlanta decently well, have Penix, and want to move into a double in that offense. That's it for this draft, though. Appreciate you tuning in. I'll always be back tomorrow with another draft until the season starts. Till then, draft well, be safe, and I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.